lighthouse called to her. Watching Neil scale the first of the large boulders, Cindy began to sing a song her father had taught her. Actually, it was more of an old poem that she chanted. The words were not pleasant, but for some strange reason they came back to Cindy right then. The ocean is a lady. She is kind to all. But if you forget her dark moods, her cold waves, those watery walls, then you are bound to fall into a cold grave, where the fish will have you for food. The ocean is a princess. She is always fair. But if you dive too deep into the abyss, the octopus's lair, then you are bound to despair in a cold grave, where the sharks will have you for meat. My father never was much of a poet, Cindy muttered when she finished the piece. Of course, she knew he hadn't made it up. Someone had taught it to him. She just didn't know who. Maybe his mother or father, who had lived in Springville when her father was 5. Cindy wondered if he had ever walked out to the lighthouse. Without warning, the top of the lighthouse began to glow right then. Oh no, Cindy muttered as she got to her feet. Everyone knew the lighthouse was deserted, a pillar of spider webs and dust. Light had not shone from its windows since she'd moved to Springville. Her mother said it hadn't been turned on in decades. Yet as she watched, a powerful beam of white light stabbed out from the top of the lighthouse. It was turned toward the sea. It raked over the water like an energy beam fired from an alien ship. The surface of the water churned harder beneath its glare, as if it were boiling. Steam appeared to rise up from the cold water. For a moment, she thought she saw something just under the surface. A ruined ship, maybe, wrecked on a sharp reef that grew over it with the passing years. Then the light snapped toward the shore, spinning halfway around. It focused on the jetty, still moving, still searching. Cindy watched in horror as it crept toward her brother. He was already partway down the jetty, his eyes focused on his feet. "Neil!" she screamed. He looked up just as the light fell on him. It was as if something physical had grabbed him. For a few seconds, his short brown hair stood straight up. Then his feet lifted off the boulder he was standing on. The light was so bright it was blinding. But Cindy got the impression that 2 ugly hands had emerged from the light to take hold of him. As a second scream rose in her throat, she thought she saw the hands tighten their grip. "Get away, Neil!" she cried. Cindy was running toward her brother, but the light was faster than she was. Before she even reached the jetty, Neil was yanked completely into the air. For several seconds he floated above the rocks and surf, an evil wind tugging at his hair, terror in his eyes. "Neil!" Cindy kept screaming, leaping from boulder to boulder, not caring where her feet landed. But that was her undoing. She was almost to her brother, within arm's reach, when her shoes hit a piece of wet seaweed. She slipped and went down hard. Pain flared in her right leg. She had scraped the skin off her knee. "Cindy!" her brother finally called. But the word sounded strange. The cry of a lost soul falling into a deep well. As Cindy watched, her brother was yanked out over the water, away from the jetty. He was held suspended as the waves crashed beneath his feet and the wind howled. Yet this was not a natural wind. It howled as if alive. Or else it shouted as if it hungered for those still living. The sound seemed to come from the beam of light itself. There was a note of sick humor in the sound, a wicked chuckle. It had her brother. It had what it wanted. "Neil," Cindy whispered in despair. He tried to speak to her, perhaps to say her name again. But no words came out. The beam of light suddenly moved.